Hello, I'm Loreli Drache, and welcome to the Celebration of Consciousness. Today we have some wonderful mystical more to present for you. We have Omar Angulo, who will be speaking about his spiritual experience and his psychic visions, astral travel, galactic contact, all those wonderful things that come with being an open conduit. And then we have Danielle Oberosler, who is going to be speaking about her spiritual journey and her spirit art, guide art. So we're so happy we're going to be able to see some of her artwork today. So I thank you for being there. And we're going to round it up with a beautiful closing teaching blessing with our dear Rev Ned Sheldon. So we're so thankful for all of you holding space with us today. First off, I'm going to start. If you'll all just close your eyes, we're going to just call in our helpers for today and set a blessing and intention. So I appreciate anyone who wishes to call in whatever spirit team and guidance you like to work with. Thank you for holding space with us today. I ask my guides, my angels, Archangel Michael, Raphael, Azrael, Samael, and all those that wish to work with us today, to hold space with us if you wish to be of service. I ask that my Sasquatch brethren, dragon brethren, Lumerian brethren, our galactic and celestial brethren join us if they feel the energy to do so. Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, thank you for holding space and always giving me guidance. I ask for your energies as the divine conduit you have asked of me to hold this space in love, compassion, activation, alignment, attunement. For all those that enter and seek such knowledge, awareness, and to step into their own journey, we hold this space to connect our energies and heal the land and honor the indigenous ways. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your energy, and I thank you for allowing it to flow through me and all who are here and present. May their spirit teams be blessed and guide them always for their highest good. So it is. Amen. Thank you so much. At this time, I want to introduce Omar to you. Omar is an author, artist, actor, and host of In a Good Way podcast, which currently has 86 episodes. He has published 3 books, released 24 albums as an artist, and delved in the world of acting for close to a decade. Omar can date his first spiritual experience at the age of 5 and has been on endless quest to understand these spiritual happenings throughout most of his life. Although Omar has experienced many huge awakenings over the course of his life, one of the biggest came after Omar's oldest brother took his own life in 2019. Omar was then visited by what in the native tradition are known as the Star People and shown parts of his pre-planning. But of course, that was just the beginning of the adventure that was yet to come. Thank you for being with us, Omar.
No, thank you. I forgot about the bio. I was like, oh wow, how interesting. No, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Lorelei, for inviting me into this space and allowing me to hold space here. So yeah, I mean, I think after the bio, I think I don't even need to say anything anymore. That kind of sums it up. But so I know we're limited with time, so I'll start, I guess, from as far back as I can. You know, at the age of 5, I could date a premonition that I had. And, you know, I remember telling my family that we had already done what we were doing. And they were kind of mocking me and telling me like, oh yeah, what happens next kind of thing. And I just remember as a child being confused and not understanding why. I knew it wasn't like I thought something. I knew we had already done all of this, right? And for some reason, I just remember being confused. And, you know, after that, throughout my childhood, I just knew I had a really strong connection with what people know as God, right? I would talk to God like, you know, I guess that was my imaginary friend. I didn't have really an imaginary friend. I know one of the hardest things for me was I couldn't really tell people that because people didn't believe in my journey, they didn't believe that anyone could communicate with God, right? It was more like, well, you have spirit guides, you have angels, you have this, but no one talks to God. But yet, even later, after one of my first forms of reference was the Bible, right? And it was like, oh, God came down and with two angels and talked to Abraham, or God came and talked to Moses, or God came. So I was very confused, right? That was kind of one of my first things, but this was the one that would show me these things, right? And it was this ancient spirit that you just can't even explain. It's like the human mind can't. It was like this all-knowing being wrapped in like, and it would, I guess, shrink to my, so I guess probably to not scare the life out of me, right? Like people later felt that if you were to see God, it's too much and you would just explode or something, right? Or something like that. So that was who would visit me throughout my childhood, right? For my understanding, I had this great spirit that would visit me and show me things. I remember having a vision of us it looked like a dying world, right? It was like I mean, back then when I was young, I thought of it like souls were all flying through the sky, like they were all leaving, and it was just me, someone else, and this ancient spirit who I thought was God. We were in a cave, right? And the whole sky was red. Later, I heard people about that, like saying they had visions of leaving a dying planet. So later, I thought, what? Because first I thought, is this a premonition? Because at that point, I was already having a lot of premonitions, and so I thought, is that what's gonna happen to the Earth? Is that at one point it's gonna be, like what they say, the Armageddon and this and that? Is it gonna be ending and we're gonna be fleeing? Because now, see, at this age, I would say, could it have been like spaceships, right? All the spaceships, what I thought in all the souls were flying through the sky as a kid. Now to think like, oh, were they spaceships? Everyone was fleeing. And was it a memory or was it a premonition, right? So it gets confusing. I know I jumped way ahead. But so throughout my life, right, that's kind of what I remember, right? It was this being that would appear to me in visions, take me, show me. Like I was even shown that thing of like how they say in the Bible about, oh, in my house are many mansions, or in my mansions are many houses. So that I was shown all these things you can't even describe, right? The amount of beauty it was. And then when we turned, me and this ancient spirit, when we turned, everything was dying. And the the knowing, right? When I woke up, the knowing I had was that, like, we are here for a reason. We don't get to just destroy the earth and then go off into the sunset, right? Like somehow I felt like it was a very as above, so below. Like everything's connected. Like this earth does matter. It's not about just, oh, let's just destroy it. And at that time when I was around the church, they would talk a lot about the rapture, right? Like, oh, we're just gonna get raptured off. So who cares what happens to the earth? So what this great spirit was showing me was that it did matter. Almost like us destroying here, bleed it off into heaven or something. Like our our other world or whatever we were creating on the other side. It's like I don't know. But that was me, as always trying to really understand what these visions were, right? So, yeah, and by all means, if someone has, because I feel like I'm already being all over the place, but so those were kind of my young visions, right? When I was 16, I was in this car accident, and I don't know if that's the closest to like an NDE that I had, right? I completely knocked out my conscious, like I was out. I finally woke up. I couldn't move from my waist up. A friend had his hand on me on my forehead because everything like I busted up, right? This big truck, we were turning on the turning lane, and I guess this big truck was coming, and the driver thought that the truck was gonna stop, but instead, when they saw the yellow light, they sped up and bam, they hit right where I was, and I was hospitalized, and during that time, like I don't know if that's what it was a long road to recovery. I mean, well, months, right? As a kid, right? I missed a lot of school, and then I went back to school at 16. So that's the only thing is after that, because after that, then I started songwriting, right? And I would write things in songs that would come true. So that was one of my freaky things first, right? This is still, not even 18 yet, right? Um, so once that, then I started having a lot of the premonitions, and it would be very cryptic, right? Like it would be like once I remember I dreamed, I had my older brother, right? He was kind of a ladies' man, right? So he would sometimes people wanted to beat him up, whether it was older brothers or dads or someone, right? So once I had a dream that I guess some guys had came looking for my brother, and me and my dad went outside to say, hey, he's not here. And I remember then when my dad was like, hey, he's not here, one of those guys looking for my brother shot my dad in the hand. So when I went, I remember telling my family, hey, I had this crazy dream and they came, for my brother. And then they shot my dad in the hand. And right when I said they shot my dad in the hand, he comes out of his room saying, hey, has anyone seen my hand thing? And I was like, what? And everyone just kind of like stopped and looked at me. And it was like he was looking for a little exercise gripper thing, right? So back then, the visions were really weird. They were very cryptic, but they would put emphasis on something so I would remember those things, right? Um, so I was having a lot of premonitions like that at first, right? It was just cryptic. It was very things like that, right? But I guess it was teaching me to decipher, right? I just had no idea that all these little lessons were one day going to help me. When I see a vision, you know how they say like a picture is worth 1,000 words. So when I see a vision in the spirit world or even just right here, right, I could be sitting, get a vision. I like that one picture will show me like a whole story, right? And so that's kind of how it works with me. So let me jump forward then because let me see how much time I've been babbling for a while now. Okay, so all that happened, right? First, it was a premonition. I was being visited by this ancient being. At one point, still, I don't know if I was still a teenager or I had already maybe turned 20. I had a vision where I was in this huge library, right, that never ended. And I guess in modern times, I don't know if that's what people call the Akashic records, because this was still before Google, right? This was before Google, before that. I don't know if I think the internet was out, but it was, dial up. So, the speed, it wasn't really like you got on the computer, let me search for knowledge, right? It was still, so I still had to go by book. So I had this person that I actually admired that had passed away. I never met them, but it was almost like they became a spirit guide because then I started seeing them in visions. But they took me to this huge library that never ended. And it was almost like they told me telepathically, like, when you're on earth, learn as much as you could. Like, don't waste your time. I wasted my time when I was there. Um, don't waste your time. Okay, I woke up instantly. I knew, okay, I gotta just learn. So every weekend when I would get paid, I would go to Barnes and Nobles, look at the clearance section, whatever, just something, anything that was nonfiction, right? Let me learn about the Knights Templars. Let me learn about, the history of whatever, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, anything I could find knowledge. I started going to these bookstores, right? I remember even one time because by that point I had already read the Bible from beginning to end. I would listen to it like the unabridged audiobook at work. So I heard it over 40 times from beginning to end just because I felt like I was supposed to. I even felt like that's why my gifts were enhanced because it was almost like in my life, I searched for knowledge. So the doors were open. Like, oh, like, it was almost, I did feel like we really do get rewarded. In that quest for knowledge, it's like, oh, wow, like you're taking this seriously. Okay, let us open this other door. Let us open this other door. So at one point after studying the Bible for so long, I even, I went to the bookstore and I was like, maybe I'm supposed to learn the Satanic Bible, right? Like back then I was really like, oh, it's a fight between good and evil, know thy enemy kind of thing, right? But as I went to get the book, I had this horrible feeling in my stomach. So I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to get the book. And then I was right next to it, oddly, right in the same place as like the Satanic Bible was like the Book of Enoch, right? And then the Book of Enoch opened up. It was like the Bible didn't even make sense without the Book of Enoch. So then I was introduced to, oh wow, there is more. It's not just about what they've been feeding us, right? I think that's when I started becoming even more open, right? It was like, oh wow, there's a whole nother, there are things that are taken out that they lie. Then I started seeing the lie. Oh wow, they do lie to us about a lot of stuff, right? There's this whole other thing because yeah, just seeing that the Bible doesn't even make sense without the Book of Enoch, really. Like there's so much missing that kind of it makes it make a lot more sense than it took me down that road, right? So anyways, so I was on a quest for knowledge, all this and that. A huge important part I left out was that I grew up a lot around the street stuff, right? So that was my environment. I was around, I knew enough to not join a gang, but all my friends basically, like, let's say out of 20 something good friends, let's say 25, right? Maybe 20 of them went off into gangs, right? And maybe 5 of us didn't. So it was like that. It was the environment was for the most part harsh, right? Like you have to survive and this and that. So maybe there was a little bit of that. I didn't realize, why am I being taught that, like, who am I, right? Like, because when I would talk to preachers and trying to see who can mentor me, they didn't really see the things that I had already seen. So I didn't, I guess maybe, what is it called? Imposter syndrome, right? It's almost like you have that imposter syndrome of wow, who am I, right? And then when you did try to tiptoe and tell people, well, hey, God visits me or whatever, like, and they look at you like, yeah, this guy's full of whatever, then it's like, okay, let me not bring that up again, right? So, it was that, right? The street stuff. So I got in a lot of life and death situations. That was one of the big ones that then I was like, I noticed something was keeping me alive. And that's what made me even search more. I was like, you know what? I don't know why you're keeping me alive. You know, when I was 18, I started paying for my own life insurance. I didn't know one person that did that because I expected to die. I knew it was a matter of time. It was like, so as long as my mom's okay, we're good. So I was like, all right, it's cool, because I think that was one of the things. They threaten you a lot, right? And not, I've made my peace with like the police, right? But even police, there were times they pulled me over, put guns in my face, and I yelled back because it just didn't seem fair. Like my brain couldn't compute, like, hey, I'm not doing nothing wrong. Like this isn't, like, who are you to yell at me and tell me, comply, comply. And the same with gangbangers, right? So it was either a gangbanger was gonna pull me over and put a gun in my face, or a police officer was, right? So at one point, I just snapped and I was like, I'd rather be dead than afraid. That was my thing. I'd rather be dead than afraid. Let me pay for this life insurance in case someone shoots me, and then my mom's gonna be good and we're good, right? So in that journey, that's when I was like, hey, why are you keeping me alive? And then I started having more visions and more visions and more. Okay, so if I'm not afraid of death, then I shouldn't be afraid to tell people, hey, I'm talking to God. Hey, so that's what I felt all that was about. It was like, well, if I'm not afraid to die, then why should I be afraid if someone calls me crazy, right? And then I started always trying to be sober, right? I backslid, I drank a lot, I went through that, but I wanted to be sober on purpose so nobody could ever question what I was saying, right? So you can't, because I had so many friends over the course of my life that, yeah, they were on drugs, but I knew they were telling the truth. I was like, oh, wow, I had an experience like that. I had an experience like that. But I knew no one was ever going to believe them because they were drunk or they were doing, other things like meth or things like that, right? But I was like, oh, wow, this person is actually, like, I know what they're talking about. So it's crazy. So I didn't want that same thing. So I became, very sober, this and that. So let me fast forward because I could keep going on with those experiences. So like Lorelei said, in the bio, in 2019, you know, at that point, right, I had already been experiencing everything. I had already, had been having visions forever. And I felt like I would help people. People would message me in private, like, hey, I know you're the only one I could talk about. Because sometimes I would post things on social media and people would always contact me privately, right? To talk about these things. So I felt, and there were times too that I went to somebody and they were like, oh, um, like, yeah, they felt someone had sent me to help them, right? Like I was there just in the nick of time or whatever. So, anyways, in 2019, that's when my brother, he took his life, right? And I didn't get it. I was angry at the spirit world because it was like, here I've been like trying to do my best to serve you or serve, do whatever, serve the higher good, serve this. Yeah, I'm not perfect. Yeah, I keep doing errors. Uh, for the most part, I think I would hurt myself more than anyone, right? Like when you go on that, like, you drink or do this or do that, right? You hurt yourself, um, stuff like that, right? So in 2019, my brother, I found out, like, right, he took his life, right? And it was interesting because I was on my first date with someone who happened to be a medium. I didn't know how enhanced her gifts were or how much of a medium she was. She was like really in touch, right? Like not all mediums, like she would even see the spirits and everything, right? So she would hear, she had like all the clear everything basically, right? Um, so anyways, I got the news as we just sat down to eat. I meet up with this person, we sit down to eat. I get the phone call by my brother's wife. She's screaming. I'm like what? And then, I'm looking at this person and I feel like they already know because they look at me and I'm like, oh man, I just got a call that, they haven't even brought the food yet. So then after, where we were at, it was like halfway to my brother's house. So we end up going, she takes me. right away she's telling me everything my brother's saying, right? So she really helped me with that, right? Because and then after that, like a week later, I contacted another medium friend that told me word for word what that medium said. So, and they don't even know each other, so I was like, oh wow, it's confirmed. Like this is real, right? Um, because I had never really interacted with mediums on, even though myself I had experienced all these things. I had never really had that kind of experience where they're like, oh, there's this thing in the house, or there's this or that. Things that were significant that he wanted me to find in his house, and this and that that I was being guided to find. So, anyways, I was upset, but I realized that 9 months before he took his life, I had dreamed it, right? I had dreamed it. It's the first time in my life that I woke up from a dream. My whole face was covered in tears, but I thought that there had been this calamity, right? I thought that half the world had died or something because, it's like here in California, there was a time when a lot of people were having visions of like this great tsunami or things like that. So I remember in this vision, the ground was all wet and muddy, and the only one there was me and my brother. He was the only one in that vision. And so I thought he had survived, right? Half the world had passed. He had survived. And so, I woke up with my whole face covered in tears, whatever. And then, 9 months later, that happened. He took his life. And then after that, um, maybe a month after he passed away, I was on Facebook because all his, he was in the military for 20 plus years, right? So they were just like, oh, it was PTSD, but there was a huge spiritual component to it. Something that I'm probably still not ready to share in this and that, but there was a lot of things going on. So, it was like, okay, he was in the military for 20 something years, he was deployed 3 times to war, whatever, saw all these things. So I have PTSD, boom, that's it, right? So after that, right, like I was on Facebook and all his military buddies that were just hearing the news were contacting me. Finally, like one of my friends jumps out there and they tell me, oh, message your friend. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna message him. He didn't even tell me my condolences, nothing. I'm not gonna message him. Um, and they're like, if you don't message him, you're gonna regret it. And I was like, fine, so I tell him, hey, how's it going? He tells me everything's good, but I could tell there's something going on with him. So he lived a couple miles away. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see you. And I go, and I could tell he was going through something. And whatever, I pray for him. Take out some sage, I smudge him off, and he looks at me and he tells me, "Hey, I know God or an angel sent you here, right?" So I guess he was at that same place that my brother was. I think he was getting close, or he had probably made up his mind that he was gonna take his life as well. So instantly, when he told me that, I knew I had just saved my friend's life, and according to him. But I look up at the sky and I'm like, oh, no way. Like, you let me help my friend, but you didn't let me help my own brother. Like, it's confirmed now. See, you do send me to help people, but you didn't let me go help my own brother. Like, screw you, spirit world, screw you, everybody. Like forget that, right? So then I decided I'm going to take my own life, right? I went to a dark place. I was like, you know what? Forget all of this. I'm done. My brother, he had a family. He had this, he had that. Like I don't have any kids or nothing. So I was like, you know what? That wasn't right, right? You could have sent me to stop him from doing that. So then when I decided, okay, boom, I'm gonna do it. That's when I was visited by these beings, right? I was visited by these beings. One was very tall. Uh, I later found, it's like what people call these Pleiadians, right? Pleiadians, right? And so one was the one that came to interact with me was a woman, and then behind her it was either 2 men or three. I think it was three, like male, right? Because they were male and female, right? So the one that came to me, she was a female, and she's the one that interacted with me. But she had already appeared before, but it wasn't in that form, right? It was she had appeared like right after my brother passed away. Yeah, before that incident, right before my brother passed away. Oh no, yeah. So when I had decided to do it, she came and she took me to where my brother was. So first it was just her by herself. She came to take me where my brother was, and she looked like us, but you could tell she had authority. It was almost like someone in the military that's like a colonel or a general or something, right? She came, she had authority. All she did was give me a nod, like boom, and then I nodded back at her, and it was like, okay, go talk to your brother. Like we knew, like we are talking telepathically. And so I talked to him, I saw, and then they showed me that it was like we had agreed to it. So that's what snapped me out of the okay, like I can't. And then they showed me physical proof. So it was similar to like the NDE, right? Like how you're showing your pre-planning. So I was showing physical proof, and then it just started. I went down the rabbit hole. Then it was everywhere, right? From the first kind of song I ever wrote to places I went when I was little. This thing started appearing everywhere, right? Uh, and it was all tied, to the day he passed away, it was on 216. So I even wrote a book. It's called like 216 and the Secrets of the Universe, because how could I ever forget that number when that was like the worst day of my life, right? It was like the day my brother took his life, right? And so after that, that number started appearing everywhere. Even I realized, because it happened in 2019, then the pandemic hit the next year, right? 2020. The pandemic didn't even bother me because I had already went through the worst year of my life in 2019. That was my pandemic, right? So when everyone was kind of like worried during 2020, it didn't even matter to me. I wasn't still like in a blur, right? Because in 2019 I had that, right? I lost work, then my brother, then I had like a significant heartbreak. So I've heard of people that have a whole spiritual awakening just from a bad heartbreak, right? Like, so there's like that super heartbreak of that, my brother, then of having someone that you care about, that boom, things don't work out. And then even the work, right? Which was probably the best, not the best job, but the most I've ever been getting paid in my life, right? Like it was just like, so everything, boom, boom, boom. I lost all that. And then, came the pandemic. But anyways, it was like this number started appearing everywhere, right? It was like, I even realized, like, Lorelei mentioned, I do acting as well. So I had actually acted on a show that was season 2, episode 16, and it was about a pandemic, and everyone gets locked down, and everyone gets quarantined, and this had happened in 2017. So it was like they were already guiding me. It was always warnings, right? Like anything attached to that number, it kind of signaled like, hey, these are like prophecies, right? This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen, right? Or it was just connected to me in some way. And then, it ended up, I mean, yeah, there's so much information in the book, so that's why I wrote it. But it's basically like that. Even everything we watch now in 4K, right? If you see, it's one dimension or one length by 2160, right? So that's one of the things of 4K resolution. The moon is like 2,100 and, they say 59, but I know someone didn't really go up to the moon and measure it with a measuring tape, right? It's close enough to 2160 that I'm like, yeah, the moon's probably even 2160 in diameter, right? This pyramid I had gone to when I was little, it was 216 feet tall. So it was like 216 was everywhere throughout my life. It went back thousands of years to Greek culture, Aztec culture, just all these places that then later on I started dreaming about past lives, right? I saw so many of my past lives, boom, 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 boom. I seen myself, in an ancient civilization in Peru, and I would dream these things, and then I'd wake up and I would Google them. Like it would be enough to like, okay, I'm in this ceremony, boom, and then there was like a tribe in Virginia, the Iroquois, a tribe in Peru. I was there like in the Aztec pyramids as a baby, and I saw myself, right? And when I had that vision, I was awake and I started crying because it was I just couldn't even describe it. It was just the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was like me as a baby with my mom holding me up and the sun behind the pyramid, like shining behind the sun pyramid, over there in Tenochtitlan, right? In Mexico City, right? Modern day Mexico City. So I started having all these visions even while I was awake. But that was really the main like trigger point, right? It was after my brother passed away. Well, let me go back a little. So this is kind of how it happened. First, I realized, and then I'll go forward into like other like contact I've had with like, the beings and all this and that. But it was like right when my brother passed, the first thing they showed me was there were these things in the vision that I knew. When I woke up, it was like my closet doesn't have a door, and I saw this thing, and I knew I was supposed to go get it. And it was a picture in my closet of when I graduated from the military, right? And so when and I said it before, I cussed out loud. I was like, no effing way, right? I knew before I opened that. When I opened it, I saw that I had graduated from the military on 2/16, 12 years prior. So I was like, no way. So then I got it like So did he just graduate? Because it was exactly 12 years, right? So I know the clock goes up to 12 and it resets. The months go up to 12 and they start over. In school, we go from grades 1 through 12 and then it's higher learning, right? So I was like, why was it exactly 12 years, right? Why did I graduate exactly 12 years before my brother graduated? You know, so it was like, I graduated from the military on 216, but 12 years prior than my brother on 216. So I was like, okay, they're just showing me it's a graduation, right? I graduated, he graduated. Then less than a month later, or about a month later, this famous artist got murdered, right? And I kept feeling like I was channeling him. He was like, I kept hearing him in my head, kept hearing him in my head. Finally, I go to look. I had never listened to any of his music because it was mostly a lot of like kind of gangster rap stuff. And I was already past that phase. So I didn't really resonate with that music anymore. But I started seeing interviews, and he was a very smart man, right? He was really smart. He was building businesses, and he was showing that you could go from that bad environment and turn it and start, and even helping the kids, right? He was building these like centers for kids to go and learn and everything. So I was like, wow, okay, maybe they just wanted me to see things about him. So then I was like, I'm gonna go buy one of his songs because he does have some songs that are, pretty inspirational. And I saw the very last album he came out with before he was murdered came out on 216. And I was like, you're kidding. And it was called Victory Lap. So it was like, oh, wow, my graduation, my brother's graduation, his victory lap, right? That was the last thing, like, boom, the huge, like he fulfilled his purpose, right? So then I was starting to be shown the pre-planning, right? How we all had this little thing, but it was funny that the connection, right? Like me connected to my brother and us connected to this artist that we never met, right? And all this. And then, and then that's when I got led down the rabbit hole, right? I think, I don't know who it was. I mean, I haven't, because I get the knowledge, I put it out and then I just keep going, right? So I don't know if it was Plato that said like the perfect number and it had to do with like 216, something like that. So it was even in ancient Greek, right? Like this famous philosopher was trying to talk about that number. So it was all throughout. And it's just that it's to show that this is a creation, right? That we are, I don't like to call it a simulation, but yeah, it's definitely created, right? Everything is created. And then that number, there was a man that after I put out my book, then another clue to the puzzle came out. And it was this man that had put out a book with 216, but his was all mathematical. So he had a similar experience, right? I even tried to interview him for my podcast. I messaged him on Facebook, email, YouTube. He just never replied to me, right? But I guess what happened to him was he was in his bed with his wife, and then he went to go pee. He looked at his phone, he went pee. Next thing you know, he comes to and he looks at his phone and he's like, what? He did the math exactly. 216 minutes had passed and he had no clue where he had gone. But he was like, 216, I know that number from somewhere. And then boom, he went down the rabbit hole and he found out that number is embedded like in every flower, every this. So it is. It's like almost like, if God was the huge like the architect or mathematician, this number is at the core. And he got into it on a whole nother. Like he talked about the Fibonacci sequence. I had no clue what that was. So then I went into this whole other rabbit hole, and I thought, okay, maybe this man was meant to show it in that mathematical way for all the scientist folks and all that get that thing. And I was meant to show it just like, to the average Joe like myself, right? Like, hey, well, check it out. I graduated. My brother graduated. This artist that was murdered, like his victory lap, like it was all planned already. It's all like, it's all orchestrated, and then after I hadn't even heard about NDEs. And that's when I started seeing the NDEs. Oh, I was showed my pre-planning. I was shown this, I was shown that. Right. So then it went down that level. But see, knowing that, I still don't feel like, oh, we're here for nothing. I know we're all on our own individual journeys, but I'm constantly shown that it does matter. That's all. So I just do that for myself. Even having the podcast, I've been able to interview all these mediums that, now that my medium gifts are very enhanced, have said different things than what I've seen. And of course, on the podcast, I'm never going to tell them, oh, I think you're wrong. I just know that they've seen something different. But sometimes people are very concrete with it. Like, no, this is what I seen and that's what it is. And I've at least encountered quite a few people that I've been able to even interview as mediums that I've been shown something different. So just to show that not everything is concrete. We are going through our own experiences while we're here. But I don't know. It is a journey, right? Like so I have seen other beings, right? I don't know. Have I talked over 30 minutes already or not yet? Okay. I have seen other beings, right? Even in the physical. So first they were visiting me in visions. Um, Even once after my brother passed away, I was making this piece of music, right? Because I've done music. I think that was one of the reasons I was always so tapped in, was because I've written over 1,000 songs in my time. So sometimes I would write like 10 songs a day, make music, everything. So that was my therapy, right? Never had to go to a therapist because that was my therapy, right? I would play till I felt better, right? Or write songs till I felt better, till my hands got tired. So I think I was always an open channel because of that, right? I was always writing stuff. So after my brother passed, I was working on this musical piece, and I don't know why it just pulled on my heartstrings, and I just started crying like nobody's business. And it was already like maybe a couple years after he had passed away, but instantly it was like I felt this beam of light. Like I was instantly connected to all these beings, like I was just boom, 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 like, and they were all, none of them were human, right? Or from what we perceive as human, right? They were all, and it was like, because that was the most love, right? That was the purest love that we like. It's unfortunate that sometimes we don't get it until we're gone from this earth plane, right? That we understand the power. Love is everything. Love was what connected me to my brother. Like I knew nothing was gonna keep me from going to see my brother after he passed away. Because I remember even after, right, my mom was a little disappointed because I think for a few years, I think it was like 2, 3 years after, she never dreamed of him. She never nothing. And I would be the communicator, right? I would tell her like, oh yeah, he came, he said this, he said that, he's good, this and that. So I was always the one that was bringing the messages, and she was upset. Like, I'm his own mom. Why wouldn't he visit me, right? But I don't know. I think it's different reasons. Sometimes you're just not ready, or it's just there's something, right? I think as a parent, it's hard. Maybe as a parent, you feel like you failed or something. So there's a blockage, right? Like, oh, like, how could my son do this? It doesn't make sense. Like, where did I go? So there's other blockages that come into place, right? You're not seeing it from that perspective. Me as a brother, I mean, I did feel like I failed at first, right? I was like, wait, how come you didn't send me to help him? But it was like, once I was shown that we had agreed to it, then it was different. Then I still went to a kind of a dark place, but I wanted to connect with them, and it was all love, right? Like love, there's no mathematical equation to it. There's no nothing. We're just connected with people. We could connect to somebody in Jupiter from with love, or in other dimensions and other realities. So even that, after he passed, I started seeing multiple realities, right? The first time it hit me, I remember I was in the shower, and it was like seeing over 50 different TVs in your head at once. I dropped to my face. I was praying, take it away, take it away. And it lasted over a minute. And I'm just seeing all these things. And it was just so much, like I couldn't deal with it, right? So I prayed for it to be taken away. Then it started coming to me in dreams. I saw one like where my brother was still alive, and he was like this chubby construction worker, right? And then another, it was like, because in this, he still worked for the government. He was still working on base and everything, right? So that was, but in another one, it was like, he was that. And then in another one, like, we traded roles. When I was young, it was like I was the more like street one, and he would always, because he went to the military right out of high school, so he was more like, hey, calm down, don't get into trouble, this and that. There was one where it was reversed. He was the one that was, and I was the one that, hey man, calm down, like, hey, don't be starting stuff and this and that. So I got to see all these realities. So I know that there's still other realities right now where it's a whole different thing going on, right? I'm very aware of that. And sometimes it bleeds out. There's been times where even like while I was asleep, it's like I jumped into one of these other realities, and I was like, wait, where am I at? And someone's calling me, and I'm looking like, wait, like I'm looking for information, like whose place is this? Like what? And I run into the bathroom, and I lock the door, and I remember I woke up in this like apartment, and then I grabbed this purse I saw, and I go to the bathroom, I'm looking for it, and then I hear them get there, and they're calling me. And boom, then when I snap out of it, I woke up in my bed, but it was that it was like I was so exhausted that I knew it was real. It was like, oh wow, that wasn't just like, a dream or something. It was like, almost like, I don't know if any of you ever seen that movie Ghost, where they hop into Oda Mae, and then she like, or the ghost is all exhausted like that. That's kind of how it felt. Like after you feel like you can't even move, like it takes you a while to readjust, right? Um, so I don't know how I hopped all the way back to that. I kind of lost my train of thought. I don't know where I'm at. That's how I feel, kind of like in those visions where I'm jumping from reality to reality. But let me see. Just going forward, I guess I have had visions of a new earth, right? So that's why I'm very optimistic. I know there's a lot. I have seen realities, right? So I've seen. It's almost like the Doctor Strange thing, right? Um, I don't know if any of you have ever seen like Avengers Endgame, and then there when he tells them like there's one possibility out of like millions that we can go towards like saving the world or something, right? And I like to think that that's what I'm aiming for. I have seen right. I've seen versions where there's like an alien invasion. I've seen versions where, like that, the whole world kind of and everyone has to flee the planet. I've seen where there's like, the tsunamis coming and boom, all this and that. But I've also seen this new Earth version, right? I've seen this new Earth version where it's like we're all walking, people all diverse, and we're on this road, and the cities even look beautiful, like almost golden because the sun is shining off of them. And I even remember seeing this hybrid animal, right? Like it was a wolf with antlers. But it's funny because then I looked it up and there were actually stories of wolf with antlers and all that. So there's already, so I don't know. Oh, I don't know if there was another reality or, things like that. But anyways, and then we get to this ocean where it's like beautiful. You can't even describe it with words, right? The water and then the sand. And then it's like from that place, we're even going somewhere else, right? So I've seen all these different visions, and I like to think that hopefully we can create that reality. I think that was the vision I was shown since I was a child, right? That we do get to choose. Like that's what this, creator, God, great spirit was trying to show me. Like as he showed me all this, like heaven's mansions or whatever, and we turned and everything was dying. It was like that, a warning almost like, hey, it's not just like, it's not just like, you go and boom, 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 and it's that simple. I know we're here for a reason, obviously, right? Aside from the experience, I know we plug into this matrix or whatever it is to experience all these things, but it's for a reason. Um, almost like we're trying to get it right, right? Like that, like future us sent back like, 100,000 versions of us, and boom, let's see which one can get it in the simulation so we could get it right and steer in a good course, right? There has to be one, almost like that Doctor Strange situation. Like there has to be one where we find the solution as humans that okay, boom, and then we make it to whatever to create this new world. So I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know if there's any questions because I feel like I jumped all over the place. Have I talked 30 minutes yet or not yet? It feels like it. So
Thank you, Omar. And yeah, I find I do the same because you have so much information that it's to share. But I was curious on you said in the one experience where you started that there was like a whole group of these galactics, and you could tell they were galactics. They didn't look humanoid. Could you just explain that just a little bit more, like what they appeared like for you?
it was like as I closed my eyes, it was almost like, almost like that, right? Like you could feel your third eye explode open, not even like burst. It was like explode. And it was like I was instantly connected. It was like me, like at one point, right? I remember even being upset because at one point, luckily, like in college, I found like a native community, right? And that helped me grow a lot more because I was more open to share now, right? Because now I was around someone that accepted it. Like where I had tried before to go to church and they really weren't so accepting. It was cool, at the time it served its purpose. But then once I went to the native community, going to ceremony, even elders that were like, over double my age, they didn't understand everything I was talking about, but they were actually, they knew they didn't see lies in me, right? And they were like, oh, maybe I'll take you to this person. I'll take you over here. So at one point I felt like, oh, if I would have been born into it, I would have been a medicine man or a shaman or something like that, right? Like, yeah, like since I was little, I would have been on that path. So when I connected to these, it almost felt like they were the shamans or medicine man or what, all their spiritual, I guess, I don't know if races is the correct word or wherever, whatever galactic families they were from, right? Whatever families they were from, like these were the ones, right? Like maybe they're sitting all alone. It almost felt like that. Like they were all sitting alone in some room, boom. Like we were all simultaneously doing that at that moment. Like we were all in this meditative state, and we were all, and I just started seeing. But the craziest thing was that they smiled. They were smiling like, you got it. Like in that moment, it was almost like that. What they say, like the enlightened moment of Buddha or something. It was like in that moment, they gave me this smile, like, you got it. Like that right now is it. Cause even that, my heart, right? Cause I was crying all these tears, but it was because the love that I had for my brother was, like it didn't fit in this world. It didn't fit in this existence. Like one thing I forgot to mention was like when, these Palladian beings appeared to me. And in this vision, I went through a portal and then I appeared where they were. And when I saw them, the love, I had never felt love like that. And so after that encounter, it took me over 2 months to shake off that energy. I wanted to go with that. I didn't want to be here on earth anymore. I was like, oh man, like you're my family. You're where I belong. Like, I don't want to be here no more. So it took like, I just, you can't even describe. And it's sad to say that you can't describe it because obviously we love our family and this and that, but it was just this love, like, a man. So that's what I felt with these beings. It was like, as I was making that, and it made sense, right? Working on, because you're hitting these notes or you're making these frequencies, and that's all we are, vibrations, right? So I was strumming the right chords at that moment, right? That put me in that meditative or trance state, just hitting those right chords that boom, 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 and it just like send off a signal, right? I used to get scared before. I was like, what if I send the signal that someone bad taps into it and they're like, and they're like, oh, what's that planet over there? I remember thinking that when I had experiences when I was younger, before So yeah, I know I went off into something else, but yeah, it was more. Did that explain it or not really?
Yes, yes, thank you. And when you went to say it, it kind of gave me a vision of like all your aspects of yourself, like lined up in that moment. Say,
Mm,
aha! I don't know. That's what they were giving me. So that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And it looks like TJ has a question before we move on. Go ahead, TJ.
absolutely.
Hey, I really enjoyed your speech. Thank you so much. That was like incredible. It's such an enjoyable, like it could be a TV show how you just talked.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, yeah. I wanted to, this might sound kind of dumb, but like, do you feel like your abilities like evolved over age?
Yes and no. I feel like when I was little, I was very aware. And then boom, life happens. And because that, I didn't need anyone to confirm for me. Like I was talking to God to me, when I was a little kid, right? It was like I remember even making this deal with, like when I was maybe 8 or 9, like, oh, like I'm gonna die for like humanity kind of thing. And I remember very clearly being told, nope. Like, and I got it later, right? It was like someone already did that. It didn't work. You know what I mean? They already have that whole
Yeah.
thing of like, hey, because everyone loves throwing that around, right? Like Jesus paid for our sins. Okay, then why haven't we got it right yet? Like, what's the problem? Like, okay, if someone already led by example, like, hey, I'm even willing to give my life for humanity, and then that's gonna be carried on and used over and over and over, but nothing changes. So I was clearly like, almost like a parent telling the kid, like, no, okay, okay, well, it sounded like a good idea, right? Like, ooh. So I was very aware, and then somewhere I blocked all that out. And then later, yeah, now, yeah, it's been an ongoing journey where yeah, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I had horrible anxiety even. The anxiety hit me, I think, in 2020, and it was because the gifts were. So I guess that's, you know, the more you grow, yeah, unfortunately comes those side effects, right? But it's just a part of the evolution of what we are, right? So I don't know that.
What are
Oh, what?
I'm just a little bit of elaboration. What do you do in your daily life that kind of like makes your abilities like stronger? You know what I mean? Or like more enhanced?
I think one thing that for sure is like the first thing that popped in my head was like the faith, right? I believe, and there's so many examples of like that teaching, right? It was like there's this one motivational speaker, Les Brown. Have you ever heard of him? Is it Les
I
Brown?
have not.
I
Actually,
don't know if it's
yes.
Les.
Okay. I have heard of him.
Okay, he shares this story where, oh, there's once these kids that were playing on the ice and one of them fell through, and then after that, like, oh, the other friend panics. He goes and he breaks this branch and crushes, like, breaks through the ice, saves his friend. And then when the paramedics and everyone come, they're like, how did this little puny guy break the ice and save his friend? And that there was this older man right there that he looks at him and he tells him, I'll tell you how he did it. He's all, because there was no one here to tell him that he couldn't. So because there was no one there to tell him that he couldn't, that little guy, who could tell him, oh, you're too small, you're nothing. So I think, there, in my spiritual walk, there's been a lot of solitude, unfortunately, right? I did go on a lot of journeys where I was alone for a long time. But the upside to that is there's no one to tell you no. There's no one to tell me I'm not seeing beings. There's no one to tell me I'm not having these visions. There's no one so I'm very open. So when they show me things, it's like Lorelei. She talks, I've really never talked about that. Like she talks about like Bigfoot, for example, right? Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Like, I've had an encounter even, right? And I was in the mountains and I was on a spiritual quest that day. I went to the mountains. Something told me to go to the mountains, climbed the mountain, prayed at the top of the mountain when I came back. So I was in this relaxed state, right? I had sweated everything I had. I was exhausted, hiked for, a few hours. And when I came down, I was in this blissful state of just love. I wanted to hug trees, everything, you name it, right? And then boom, I seen this and I was like, what? And then he was gone. And then I was like, or he or she or however, but then it was gone, right? And I was like, nah, that didn't just happen, did it? And then, like a week later, then I see this footprint too. And the mountains had been closed because there was a fire. So there was really no one up there, this and that. Then I see this huge footprint and I'm like, I didn't even want to tell anybody because I don't want people over here, when I'm on my quiet hikes, right, looking for Bigfoot or something. Like I'm just like, I love my quiet time in the mountains. I don't want, so I think that's one of the things. I go very openly to it, right? Like, and that the quest for knowledge. If you're, like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So it's like that. You just have to ask yourself, are you really open to it? Are you really because even that, as many occurrences as I've had, I don't know, what last year, the year before, like I woke up and there was a portal above my room and this being was looking through it and I saw it and it freaked me out. So I just put the covers over my head and I regretted that so much. I regretted it so much. I knew, like, I started looking around, there's no shadow, nothing. And then I saw it moving and I realized what it was. And even like a couple months later, I had a friend that told me, hey, I know you're the only person I could tell because everyone else will think I'm crazy. But I saw this being and let me see if I could sketch it out for you or something. And then they found photos of like other people that had these experiences. And I was like, oh my God, that's the being I saw in my room. So then I knew I wasn't like having whatever. I wasn't delusional. Like this being did appear. So see, sometimes we think we're ready, but are we really ready? So it's kind of like, if you're really ready, you'll start seeing things, but no, sometimes like, we're not really ready, right? I guess. But yeah,
Right.
I don't, did that make sense or?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. That was incredible. I appreciate you. I'd love to add you on Facebook if I can.
I'm not really active on Facebook, but I've been meaning to open one. So I'll definitely, once I open it, I'll tell Lorelei. And
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No, Omar, you made me laugh because sometimes I scry through portals and now I'm thinking, what are those poor people thinking that I'm looking at?
exactly. Yeah.
The reverse of so that made me laugh. So thank you. I thought, Keisha, did you have a question before we move on?
It was the same question.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Everybody wants to know the processes because everybody does things just a little bit differently. So thank you for sharing all of that, Omar.
Absolutely.
So thankful for you. Thank you for holding space.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Omar's stuff is in the chat and it will also be listed down below the video for those watching. So you can connect further with him. Thank you so much. And now we're going to move on to Miss Danielle. So I welcome Danielle. She's been tattooing for 31 years and seen ghosts since she was a child. She's had a spiritually transformative experience from dealing with her haunted house. Her biker ghost story was featured on Paranormal Witness, The Pit, and hiring a shaman to help her, she began experiencing more positive beings like the fairy realm and extraterrestrials. Now, after many ET downloads and upgrades, she can use her art background to draw spirit guides. She does some amazing art, and I will share her contact info in there as well. Welcome, Danielle, and thank you for holding space with us today.
Thanks for having me. I hope I can stay on point. It's hard to, as Omar just, experienced, I'm sure that when you start talking about it, you can get sidetracked and everything. I did create a little slideshow and I will share my screen so that it will help me stay on my points. Yeah, I saw ghosts, and I had past life dreams since I was a child. So being raised in a very fundamental Christian family and having them tell me, no, people don't die and then their spirit stays on earth, they go to heaven or hell. But I was seeing them around my bed every night, humans and non-humans alike, things that were negative as well as just people in spirit. And also I'd seen my own past lives. So, of course, I'm going to believe in reincarnation since I was a child, and you cannot convince me. My family had an actual intervention once. It was like those ones that they do for drug addicts and alcoholics, but it was about Christianity, and they just wanted me to die and go to the same place they're all going, and were afraid that I would be left somewhere else, not invited to the party. And I just kept like, you can't change my mind. I know that there is more than just that thought, that idea. So that being said, I bought a house in 2008. The house was haunted. A lot of times when I'm interviewed, this is where we get hung up for most of the time. So I don't want to sit here and talk about the torment and the this and that. I already knew ghosts exist. You know what I mean? Or spirits. I already knew. I knew there was negative things as well. So I lived with my house being haunted for 13 years. And I tried to have it cleared. I had people come, Catholic priests came, sage, the whole thing. We tried. The house wasn't going to be cleared. The show, of course, it was about, the information I had gotten was that one of the people were buried under my house. And so somebody was earthbound, and that's why it couldn't be cleared. And so the show, Paranormal Witness, The Pit, is about me digging up my floor and looking under my house for a dead body so that I could clear the house. Anyways, I ended up having the activity did get so bad because there was a portal in the house that was opened by a satanic ritual. The ghosts were bikers. And it had gotten so bad, and I knew that there were demons there. I didn't see them, but you could hear the claws on the ground, and they were jumping on us, and we were getting scratched and bruised, and it was to a point where we weren't sleeping at night. My mom, my daughter, and I were all being tormented nightly to the point where we couldn't sleep. We couldn't even sleep somewhere else. Like if my daughter went to somebody else's house, that family got attacked in their home. We tried sleeping in the RV, all this stuff. Somebody finally said, you need to hire a shaman. And at that point, I was like, I don't even know what that is. I would never have sought one out on my own for any reason. So I find one on Yelp. My friend actually looked him up and found him. And I called him, I made an appointment to go see him, get on his table. And that's really where the transformation happens, is learning from him. I was leaking energy. My chakras were out of balance. I had traumas that I needed to deal with. And that was leaking energy. And that energy leak was feeding all of that activity in my house, which is why it could not be cleared. So that being said, I had the work done. We fixed my chakra. It stopped leaking energy. The biker was thrown in the light. So from that day, we learned a lot about, being in a body. We have more, our vibration is probably a little higher than a spirit that's out of body on the earth plane anyway. And those negative things, they're lower vibration than us. That makes us a bit stronger than them. I don't need to be bullied by low vibration things. So we learned from the shaman how to throw them in the light. I no longer, have to worry about any of that. However, as I was learning from him, and I did join a psychic mediumship group that I meet up with once a month, and all of them are talking to people's dead grandmas and relaying messages from loved ones and all that. I don't do any of that. I started immediately after learning that we can clear our own house and just wing them in the light. I started seeing things that were a little bit more high vibration, which were at first the fairy realm. I started seeing things like a golem. My house had a golem. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. So I actually saw him manifest in the physical. Now, we named him Precious. He was around for years. He manifested in the physical. I did not just see him with my third eye. And he would be running around the house. He was pretty hyper. I know in Lord of the Rings, whatever his name is in the golem in the Lord of the Rings is kind of like greedy and selfish and not very nice, but ours was like a toddler. He was really highly excitable, running around, very hyper. Next, I saw my front yard had a blue fairy. She was the first one to move into the fairy garden that I made in the front yard. So I built a fairy garden to attract more fairies, and she was the first one to come. She's great. She's a healer, and she moved in first. After her came about 50 more. When I go to bed at night, the fairies and gnomes and everything, they just pop into my head. So it's almost like they're posing for a picture where they try to make sure I see their best angles and their hairs flowing in the wind and all this stuff so that I can draw them. They're making sure I see them really good. I also drew this amabier. This is in a lake nearby. These are healers. They're in Japanese folk tales, not English folk tales. We don't hear about these, but they're interesting. You can look those up and read about them. But apparently, if you hang a picture of one of these on your wall, it can help heal you. Oh, the gnomes. The gnomes here at my house, it was reminding me of the little mice in Cinderella that they had like the not really well-fitting clothes and the baggy hats. It wasn't the gnomes that have the pointy hats and the beards like always the statues have, which is really funny. And I felt like he looked a little bit like almost a human mixed with a mouse or a rat. I've seen them go by my window as well. They run on air. They don't have wings, but they can, it's like they're flying. They run on air. They're great. So like I said, I get a lot of this dimension. And like this guy, it's in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The character's got one of these in his pocket. But we've got these on our property. They pop in our heads. My daughter and I can both see them. So that was really fun. But like, say this dimension, the fairy dimension, is a click up from us as humans on Earth. Once you start getting into changing your vibration, rising up to meet these other beings, you can start also seeing ETs. So I started seeing this Arcturian. I tried to draw him from the front and the side because his head was like deeper than you can see when you look at him straight on. His name was Arthur. He was a temporary guide for me because I kept going to their planet. So at the time, I've been seeing Michael Shaman now for 3 years. And every time I go, I learn more and more. But, he would say like, oh, you have been able to raise your vibration so that you can go on the 9th dimension. So Arcturians are on the 9th. If we are on the 3rd and fairies are like somewhere on the 4th or 5th, now I'm jumping up to the 9th. So I started, seeing art. I don't hear, but he tries to communicate with me by like pantomiming and putting pictures in my head and that because I'm more visual. It turns out Michael Shaman saw that I was an Arcturian in a past life named Rishna, and we did something called soul braiding. This is what he calls it, where we integrate in a past life. Now, Art liked it because he said it would make it easier to communicate with me. So after I soul braided Rishna in, I started seeing stuff like this. When I close my eyes, I get these sheets of paper that have, it looks like QR code in this honeycomb pattern and some sort of weird writing that I did not understand, but I think Rishna could read it. The word instructions came in my head. After that, I started getting real downloads that I can see. It was like one night, you know the type on Star Wars, how it like goes, I don't know, it moves. It was like 10 layers of microfilm, 10 layers high, just coming at me. And it was just a major, major download I got right away. And then I've had smaller downloads. I did actually have one download that was an ego death. It was like a download, a line of type came to my eye level and then it disappeared. But I heard a crunching sound like I ate it, and then something in my body started thrashing and it died. And so I think I had a walk-in of myself as Rishna. If I go out of body, if I take off my ego when I go out of body and I look in a mirror, I am blue. I'm not. I don't look like me. So after that, I've got, actually got taken board craft by beings that look like this. I had implants done with them. I've gotten lots of downloads, lots of adjustments, tune-ups. They've messed with my, not just them, but like Arcturians and angels have come and they've messed about with my chakras and changed them a lot. So what started happening was my solar plexus became very bright. I'm going to stop sharing for now because then it's going to, my pictures are going somewhere else. My solar plexus became very bright, and spirits and animals and spirits and lower vibrational beings started coming into my room by like the 50 and the hundreds and using my solar plexus as a portal to the light. It was keeping me awake at night, and it was keeping my dog awake, and he was growling all night, so I wasn't getting sleep. So I had to learn to make a portal outside that all these beings that are kind of like lost on the lower dimensions can use as a portal to the light and not use my stomach anymore. So, I mean, I think some people get scared when they hear about the light and they think it's a reincarnation trap or whatever, but we are all light energy. So that's, that's where we come from. We're the light. We all have a portal to the light, I think, internally. And if you raise your vibration and your energy, you become somebody who glows bright enough that spirits can see that you are a doorway to the light, and they come around, and that's what they want. So this brings me back to like why all my life spirits have been around my bed at night is probably because they could already see that I could do this and I didn't know I could do it. Since then, I started getting a lot of ETs coming and messing with me in the same way that I was messed with in my house, like the way I was haunted, if you will. So a lot of reptilians started coming around and other things that are not connected to the light. And, I started throwing them in the light as well. My room every night started to become more crowded with more reptilians. I would have 25 to 50 of them in my room, and I would have to like manually throw every single one in the light. And I remember, and I'd call in help, and Arcturians would come and help me and all that. But I saw Michael, I talked to him, and I was like, what is going on? Am I at war with reptilians? Like, what is happening? Because my room, it's like I'm not getting any sleep at night. And he said, I'm not at war with them. These were these ones They're not the ones trying to take over our part of Earth that we hear about a lot. These are different ones. They had different eyes. They didn't look the same. And I've drawn the ones that are trying to take over, but these ones look a little different. They are not transitioning well with Earth and the shift. They were sickly and they wanted off. And I had made a portal down in Hollow Earth where they live. And I said, well, why can't they just use the portal I made? And Michael said, well, because they're still connected to a physical body and they can't just go in the portal. They need you to manually separate them from their physical body and throw them into the light. So I did that. I actually had gone to one of my appointments, and Merlin at this point, who was helping me with all of this, he came forward as somebody that wanted to work with me. And so I agreed to that, and he integrated in, so he'll be working with me for a few years. But we did clear out that whole, I don't know, million reptilians. I feel like you can feel a difference on Earth. It's helping with the density. You know what I mean? So that happened. Other than that, I'm gonna say I have found out that Merlin, because one night I dreamt that I got up and I looked in the mirror and I was putting lotion on my face, but the person in the mirror wasn't me and it wasn't Merlin, it was an angel. So I woke up from that dream going, wait a minute, who is Merlin actually? And it is a fragment or aspect of Archangel Raphael. So I've been able to draw Raphael. I'm going to share my screen again because I just finished that drawing a couple of days ago. So this is what Raphael looked like in the mirror to me. I thought he was a pretty good looking guy, kind of remind me of Fabio a little bit. I'm sure he can look different to different people and everything, but this is what I saw. My subconscious saw it. And that is how I've been able to figure out who Merlin is, because before I integrated with Merlin, I noticed that my energy that I'm working with when I'm clearing spaces changed. It was golden white light, and then all of a sudden it abruptly changed into green fire. I started just using green fire without thinking about it. I didn't know how I was doing it. And Archangel Raphael is the green sacred flame energy. That is definitely him. So same energy, Merlin is the same. So I just actually went and saw Michael again on Wednesday. I needed a little tune up, and I had another archangel come forward that is also wanting to work with me right now, and that was what's his name? Metatron. Did I say it right? I almost said Megatron, like it's a transformer. He's the portal to the 5D ascension. He holds the grid for the universe. Like he's huge. I don't know. This just happened. I've been integrating that this week. So I've been incredibly tired and thirsty. I've been going to bed at 5 p.m. It was very similar to the session after I worked with Loreli and we integrated all my past lives. And in particular, my first incarnation where I had tentacles. I don't know exactly why they want to work with me. I know that I'm definitely helping to clear out lower astral and lower vibration things. And some of this, I would say the reptilians they're higher than us as humans, but they're not that high. They're not that much higher. So if we raise our vibrations higher than some of this stuff, then we are more powerful. It's a great thing. So what I do drawings for people of their spirit guides. I have to do a meditation usually. I do a deep dive. I connect to the guides. I can see your main guide. Sometimes I see your higher self. I see some of the team. So I can kind of give somebody information about who's working with them. And usually, of course, if you've got a guide that was a certain being, then, I can also get the information that you also had a life as one of those beings. And sometimes the guide is actually an aspect of you. Sometimes it's a loved one from that life. So I can get that kind of information. I also will often see if there's negative attachments, negative things in your house that need clearing. I automatically get rid of those before I even tell you about it. I've seen curses on people. I can burn off curses with green fire. I see ethereal muck. Sometimes it's in your pets even. And this was really cool. A friend of mine, her cat was loaded up with this dark energy, and cats are very naturally mediums, and they're like in 2 dimensions at once, and they are protective of us, and they help absorb negative energy for us. They're great, but they can get sick from it. And so my friend's cat had this dark muck in it. I was able to burn it off, and then the cat's energy, well, the cat noticed me then, was looking right at me, and the cat's energy popped out, and the cat had dragon energy, which I was very surprised. I also have a dragon. My blue being is not only Arcturian, as I've seen her better. Oh, I'll share this screen again, one more, because I did draw my higher self, and one of the aspects is the blue-skinned one. She has scales, so that is not Arcturian only. I have seen that she is dragon Arcturian hybrid. So I think, I have a dragon, as Jeff and Laurel I have seen. His name is Puff. He changes color with his mood. He's really great, and he's, he doesn't really protect me from things because I think it's my job to clear those things, and that's why he lets them at me. But Puff's great, and he's real funny, and I can't wait to hear him. I'm working on my clairaudience currently. But what else? Oh, so I do know that making portals is just my thing. I can open portals, and I've been doing it a lot. Now when I travel, I open a portal for lost souls to find the light where I go. Like I just went to Pismo Beach and opened one on the beach, because I see a lot of animals in spirit. My room will fill up with birds, wolves, bears, raccoons. But one time I saw a dolphin floating in the air that needed to be moved on. And I was thinking, I'm probably 15 miles from the beach. And that's kind of far for a water animal to travel to find the light. So I made one right at the shore of the ocean so that, beings in the ocean can also find the light. I'm also trying right now, I'm learning to stretch my portals so that it's not just here on this dimension, but I'm trying to reach down into the lower ones. So there's a doorway in a lower astral as well. And higher, I'll stretch it up. But anyways, that's kind of what I do. It's a lot more than just drawing guides. I do think, though, that when you have a good image to focus on, that's your guide, your main guide, that when you meditate and you have that picture in your head, I think it just makes the connection stronger, for communicating. It's like if you do guided meditations, you go out of body and all that stuff, then you'll know that starting off with your imagination and being able to visualize is the start of the rest. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll be very excited to continue on with my my process and see what I'm going to start doing with Metatron. I'm drawing him now. I'm not done with the artwork. He wears armor, metal. And he was a blonde man, but he had short hair. That's about where I'm at with it. Anyways, I guess if anyone has any questions, I think, oh yeah, I do. The other thing I see when I connect with people for their guides is I'll usually see some past life stuff. I can also see if they've got past life traumas they need cleared. I'll see a movie. The guides will show me, so that I can relay, you need to clear this past life trauma. Some people have loops they're stuck in that they need to know about. And also I see if they need inner child work. Like I get a lot of information, and I always see the spirit animal. I don't know what the spirit animal does for us exactly, but I know that you can look up what it means anyway and all that. But I know that the spirit animal is helpful to us, you know, and I would love to know more about the spirit animal because apparently one of my things is definitely to be here and help animals with the ascension as well. All right. So anyways, any questions anyone has, feel free.
Thank you so much, Danielle. And I did have one question because I know you've done this, but do you feel like your spirit guide art, although you said to meditate on it, but I know in the past you have also set intention like a portal to connect, because you know how like with my work I create a portal to connect, and do you feel you do that through your artwork, like when you do that, like it's an actual like energetic connection?
You know, my artwork manifests, and since I get downloads, um, I run code all the time, and I know Jeff can see it. Um, my code is in the artwork as well. So the code is there for the person. There's energy in the drawing. I don't know if it's really a portal. I know I have portals. I have at least two in my bedroom. One is to my first incarnation, my star being, we call her, with the tentacles. And the other one is to anywhere I want to go. So I leave them open. And yes, it can make things come to me, but I clear the negative stuff anyway, so I'm not worried about that. Keisha.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your share. I was off camera because I was just in tears. It really resonated with me.
Oh,
I wanted to ask, when you were first experiencing, you mentioned like the portal and the beings using that through your solar plexus. Were you experiencing like physical sensations, like almost a pulsing or heartbeat, or even any like physical pain?
you could feel it a little bit. It wasn't too bad, but I could see like a crowd jumping in through my stomach, and it's disturbing to watch. And especially if you ever see what people look like that have stayed on the earth plane too long, they start looking like the Walking Dead. So I think what I see would terrify people. But I know that they just want help. They're not there to hurt me. Um, I did feel a little something, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I've learned there's more than just bubbling up that you could do for your house. I've had to learn how to cloak my house. So I open the portal outside, cloak invisible my house, you know, and it helps. And again, since I think it's my job actually to help transition things, I cannot bubble them out. And I can't hide and I can't really cloak if they need me. Like if they're still tethered to a physical body, I cannot block them out. It won't work. Like, you know, I've tried everything, but so now that's what I do. Any other questions? I know it's a lot. I think dealing with, for example, reptilians, it scares a lot of people. They don't really like to talk about it, and because, you know, it can get actual attention from them. But I'll tell you this, from the beginning, before I even knew I could throw one in the light, that when I see one, they are scared of me. They run from me. So I don't know. I think we're more powerful than we realize, and they like to us to not know that. Honestly, they're not that high vibration. Probably every single person here is higher vibration than them. So, or you wouldn't be here.
Amen to that. You know, it's all about standing in your power, I think, and in knowing that without fear. Yeah.
Yeah, fear is terrible. I say leave it. I see these things, like if you saw the thing that was in my room maybe 2 weeks ago, or some of the things that have come in my room, they are not of the light. Reptilians are not of the light. But these things are even worse. They were higher vibration. I was really surprised. But there are beings that are dark matter beings that are made from energy that are dark matter. There's also beings that are made from earth energy that are completely different. They're great, by the way, very nice. I've had a lot of healing from earth energy beings. But yeah, if you adjust your vibration, or learn how to adjust to go lower and higher, then you will be very, very powerful.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you do. I know I've connected with Danielle quite a bit, so I'm aware, and I'm just thankful and thankful for you for holding space today too. Just, those aren't always easy things to talk about, but very
No, and
much.
I don't talk about this on the channel. Like, there'd be too many people that it would actually scare or scare off. You know, even saying that I integrated Merlin, people are like, talk to Jesus only and only, and, you know, like he's an archangel. I think I'm good.
There's so many people who like to lead with fear or dictate by fear. You know, I remember one of the first integrations and portal work I did was actually meeting Lilith. And most people would be like, what? You know, but, you know, nothing like what she's portrayed as, you know. So it's, you know, you have to use your own discernment, I think, in these processes.
Well, you know, and I call myself a reaper. Like, I'm not, I mean, technically I don't kill anyone, but I am moving them on. And but that being said, with the reptilians, I probably am. So they wanted
Yeah.
it. They want it. They asked for it. That's, you know, and that's how come they mess with me, so I will throw them in the light. You know, even animals do it. Like if I would leave animals in spirit in my room that are just sitting there nicely waiting for me to throw them a light. And I don't want to throw something in the light if it's not bothering me. But I will say, oh, did you guys want to go in the light? Yes, they do. They nod. The animals nod. I open a light. I open the portal for them. And they walk in on their own. I don't throw them. But yeah, so I've had to learn. They know that if they mess with me, they go in the light, and if that's what they want is to go in the light, then they mess with me. So I'll just help them in. Skip the part where I get messed with.
And I know you and I have talked about the light, in the sense that, you know, we've talked about that there are people that have the belief of it being a trap, or that they're stuck once they're in the light. Now, I know from experiences you've told me that's not necessarily true about once you're in the light that you can't leave it. Could you just talk a little bit about that real quick
Well,
before we move?
yes. So, you know, my house was haunted by Charles Manson. Um, he was the one who did the satanic ritual, who opened the portal to who knows where, probably nowhere good, in my house. It was ripped through 3 dimensions, that portal. It was pretty rough to close, but we did it. Um, he was hanging around. He wasn't doing anything wrong to us, so we let him be. We don't care. Like I said, if they're being nice, I don't throw them around. Anyways, but that was the one thing we would say, if you mess up, if you mess around with us, you're gonna go in the light. He didn't want to go. So I go see Michael Shaman and I said, hey, I've had this like famous ghost hanging around. And he goes, oh yeah, I threw him in the light. I was like, he didn't want to go. Like, why did you do that? You know? Well, about like a week later, he was back. And I was like, wait, how's he back? You know, and he left actually the light. He didn't even get processed. He didn't do his life review. He didn't, you know, what is it with the higher self where you, uh, none of that. He didn't. He came back out of the light because he wanted to learn about karma and he wanted to start working on his before he got processed. So he was hanging around again, listening about karma. He had many talks with Michael Shaman about karma. And he actually, this would be very surprising for people to know, he has joined in on some energy healings for my daughter in an attempt to help his own karma. And he has helped with healing for his own followers and his victims. So I think, well, that happened. And then my dad also was at one of my appointments. He had not gone into the light. He was hanging around for maybe 6 or 7 years since he died, and he was on the earth plane, kind of taking energy from me and my brother, okay, to live on, which I was like fine with. I'm not going to throw my dad in the light, you know, if he's not ready. So he comes to my appointment, and Michael Shaman says, you know, it's time he goes. Like, he's taking energy from you and the family. And I said, I'm not pushing him. And my dad just decided to go. So he walked off. It was tearful. Bye, Dad, crying. I see him walk in the light. 30 seconds later, Michael goes, he's back. I go, no way. No, he did not get processed. He did not do the life review. He did not integrate with his higher self, nothing. But he said, yeah, he did, because time is not linear there like it is here. It was literally 30 seconds. And my dad said, I don't know, I was making such a big deal about that. Probably fear, judgment, or whatever he thought was going to happen when he went in the light, you know? I don't know. But
I was just gonna say, I think that's why a lot of them stay earthbound, because they have a fear of what they might have done. So it's very good to have that knowledge now before any, you know, any transition.
yeah, well, that's why the bikers wouldn't leave my house. They were definitely afraid of judgment and thinking they were going to get like parted off and sent to hell or something like that. They were afraid. They're good now. They're fine. I'm sure they're all happy as can be. But my daughter can still communicate with everybody in the light. I've gone up into the light. It is not some sort of reincarnation trap. However, cause and effect are universal laws. And when you do your life review, you may decide, you know, you have karma to clear. That's all. You know what I mean? And it will be your choice of whether you do it or not, I guess. You know. But I can tell you this much. I don't care who you are. I think if you do more good than bad, your scale, your karmic scale is going to be good. It's not tit for tat. I murdered somebody, now I have to be murdered and come back be victim. You know, it's not like that. It is definitely a scale of good and bad. And a lot of things add up, like saving a cat from a tree, you know, helping animals, helping anyone can be, it could be the small things you do every day add up. So
And thank you for that wisdom. And I have to agree, my third death, I remember them saying, you've done enough now, you put in enough positive balance. Like, I didn't have to go back, I could stay if I wanted to. And, you know, that just speaks to that. And, you know, I'm an overachiever. I wanted some more positive balance.
well, now we're just helping with the planet, and we're helping with the energy, and we're helping, you know, release density and raise vibrations and teach other people how to do it. I'm working on an oracle deck that's going to be an ascension toolkit. So I'm working on that now. And of course, with, you know, the help of angels and Sananda and, you know, it's going to be really cool, but it's really just a card for each step that I took to get where I am, you know. And people could say like, well, you're ascending so fast. And Omar, I believe, was talking about this as well, that your search for knowledge had gained you quick rewards. But I had done my tarot reading yesterday, and the card I got said that an intention that's aligned with action is swift. The action, the reward will be swift. Your intention and your actions together will make it swift. You can't just want to ascend and do no work.
I'm getting the full body chilly willies. That's why I'm nodding so much. Exactly. That energy is definitely flowing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I'm just thankful for you holding space and everyone else. So thank you all for being here and holding space with us. We're going to round it out with a guided activation meditation. So I'm going to set the space for that. If everybody wants to just get comfortable, whatever that means to you, please get comfortable. And I'm going to guide you through it as they guide me through it. So let's see where we go today. I'm being called very much to work with angels today. So I think that's where we're going to step into. So you're welcome to go off camera for this portion if it makes you more comfortable. And I just invite you to relax your body. We're going to take a few deep breaths and go from there. Call in the energy. Thank you. Just hold the energy for just a minute. It was weird. I was feeling this energy coming in. Like I said, I was feeling this whole body tingle. I feel very light, very cold. So I think there's a lot of energies coming in for this. Whatever they choose to do today, it makes me want to cry. It's very intense energy. Okay. They're guiding me to take a deep breath in, like you're pulling in the universal life force. Bring it all the way down to your root chakra. Fill your whole being with this breath of life. And then exhale. You're going to do that 3 times. Breathe it in. Feel that glowing, divine, bright white light. Fill your being. Activate and charge your own internal chi. Pull it all the way through to your root chakra. You're connecting with Mama Earth. And then release. All right, do one more time. Deep breath in, breathe in all the life. Imagine it flowing through you, through your divine portal. And then expand within your chakra. The beautiful red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, the indigo, the violet. Feel these rays expand within you and heal each of your chakras. Picture them flowing freely, clockwise, faster and faster as you become one with this light energy. It fills you. Feel it expand and activate your awareness, your understanding, your intuition, all your divine birthright. Know that they are yours and you are worthy. You are connected to all that is. You are one with this energy. It is yours to will, to expand, to use in a way that brings love to the universe. They're inviting you at this time to feel it flow and expand your divine portal below your sternal notch. Feel it expand and become one with you. Surround your body as it expands. You're each connected to each other and to the universe. They're inviting you to look and follow me on this journey. Envision beautiful clouds with all sorts of colors. And the colors dance and sing around you. Feel the most expansive love you've ever known. You're at peace with it as you're floating on this cloud. It's just cushioning you and cradling you like a mother to a child. Feel yourself float upon this cloud of love. As you feel this love flow, it manifests into this beautiful being of light. This light is your guide. Ask your guide its name. This is your angelic guide. For some of you, I see beautiful white wings and long brown hair. Others, I see pure light. Each will show how it needs to show to you. Some I'm seeing glistening robes. Some I'm seeing beautiful light beings that look like they're containing all these stars within a form. This is your purest form. Embrace it. All the power of the stars are within you. This being wants to guide you somewhere that you need to see. This is for your own activation, healing, your alignment. It will be different for each of you, but just feel into it. Now watch the portal appear before you and your guide. Some of you I see swirling white energy, others a beautiful violet. Trust this energy that you are safe and loved within it. It is only trying to show you what you need for your highest good in this moment. Trust yourself, trust your guide. You are safe to look at whatever it is they wish to show you. Step forward into this energy. For some of you, I am seeing whole universes open up. Look what it is they wish to show you. Some of you, they're inviting you to expand an ability. Some of you, it seems, are activating DNA. Trust the process. You are safe, and this is for you. We're going to take this portal to your divine creation point. Trust what you see. Who were you? Who are you? Ask your guide who this is and how this pertains to you. You are safe in meeting this person, this aspect of you. Who is your divine aspect? Some of you, I'm seeing Mother Mary. Others, various angels with different purposes and abilities. Some of you, I am seeing a deep blue being. Some of you appear to be earth elementals, such as the Fae. This is an aspect of you that wants to work with you. Invite it in. Know that you are whole and holy. It can have this connection and this knowledge from this being. Know that this is just another aspect of you and you are safe within this energy. What does this being look like? Does it have long, short hair? No hair? Is it light? Does it have wings? Is it earth and sky and wind and water? I'm hearing the word fire, so some of you are working with fire here. Look at how beautiful this being is and know you are worthy of this energy. This is an aspect of you. There is no separation. This is all you have ever been. and are in the universe. Every one of these aspects appearing to you is a fractal of your energy. It supports you, loves you, and is expanding with you. Feel their love, their support, and know that they are there to guide you. Feel the pulsing of the universes that you are from. Feel your creation. Know that you are the brightest star, the most beautiful of energies, the divine aspect of all that is. Invite this energy to flow through you. Be one with you. Dance with this energy. I feel the music flowing through the spheres. Every color is dancing with and around you and through you. You are one with this universe. Guide the energy. Hold it in your hands. What color energy do you see appear to you in your hand? The blue, green, violet, golden yellow. What energy is wanting to work with you? See it pulse in your hand before you. Tell this energy you are willing to work with it. To help all those that you can and be of service. Each color represents a beautiful divine energy of hope, faith, healing, love, compassion, empathy. You are the physical embodiment of these emotions. Feel them pulse through you. And know that you can express these with purpose within the 3D world. You can embody these energies to help others, to help yourself, to guide and expand the world in a more love-filled frequency. These are part of the new earth. Embrace who you are designed to be. They're showing me very beautiful, beautiful divine mathematics that each of you hold. Beautiful symbols. Some would say code, but these are yours. These are how you were made. And they belong to you to express, to be your authentic self in the world as an expression of these divine creations that have greeted you. To pull those energies into you, into your heart space, and give them the love that you want for yourself. Feel that love and energy expand within you. And thank them for their service. And thank you for these gifts to help us see our authentic self as a divine being. We thank our guide for bringing us here to what we needed to see. This guide is always with you. This is not a goodbye. This is a big, grand hello. And know that you can reach this space at any time. Just imagine the beautiful light opening in front of you. And you can step into it anytime that you need this understanding and this renewal and this expansion. It is there for you whenever you need to take this journey, because you now know the way. Trust yourself, and you can always return. Feel yourself slowly come back to your body. And know that you carry all that you've seen and all that you've touched with you. And is a part of you, flowing through you as the universal life force. Bring it into yourself. Come back to your own awareness, who you are, and your place in the world. Take a deep breath in to anchor yourself in those energies. Pull it in through you. Bring yourself back to the present moment, knowing this portal is within you to step through at any time. And just breathe and give thanks. Thank you for your service. Welcome back, everyone. If you need a moment, just take yourself. Thank you for following me on that journey. And thank you for holding space today. I'm so thankful for you. I'll give you a minute. And Debbie had a question if purples or lavenders have significant spiritual meaning. To me, yes. When I see those energies, it's usually to activate the star chakra and the lotus chakra. Above our crown, it's a divine connection of very healing energies. So I hope that answered your question. Does anybody else have any questions before we move on and close it out? Go ahead, Janet.
The real bright green and the blues, is that healing?
Those are healing as well. Blue is usually associated with Archangel Michael, and green is Raphael. And they're very prevalent in my experience, so I could see where they would come through. And they're just inviting you to use those type of energies in your healing. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much for following me on that journey. And now I just wanted to introduce you to Rev Ned, who's going to close us out today. And Rev has been doing Lakota ceremonies for going on 30 years and teaching pure love for over 40 years. And he managed international grad student housing, creating programs for diversity and gatherings, where he has met beautiful ones from 177 countries. He has had near-death experiences and experiences of being with high-density beings of pure love. And every time he holds space, he brings those to us. So thank you, Rev Ned, for holding space and closing us out today.
You're welcome. What a sacred time for us to be gathered here between you three presenters. Yeah, I had to get the Kleenex out there, Lori. Here's some of the words we have heard: honor, ancient spirit, the little things, search for knowledge, Pleiadians, 216, other realities, you got it, solitude. Are we ready? Shaman, wing them in the light, precious, blue fairies, gnomes, rising up. Do the work. Mother Mary, more love. Embrace who you are designed to be. You are that love. Give them thanks. The beautiful light. Step into it. This rattle was created for Rev to work with the energies and entities of water. And I thank my good friend Dana Sparks. The dear wisdom can lead us to the path of the open heart, gentle strength, unconditional love and compassion wrapped in grace. This water, it's been given to the sacred directions, to the morning sunrise. There's sage in it. This water has been touched, and we'll be utilizing this water. Thank you, Lord, the lightette for you. Thank you, Danielle, the beautifulette of the more. Thank you, Omar, the awesomenator. Thank each one of you, gifts of creation, who are present, and for those gifts of precious souls who will partake of these sacred energies at a later time. Beautiful energies to you. What a blessing that we can gather in these ways and waves of sacredness. What an opportunity to celebrate our cosmic diversity that is wrapped in divine unity. In earth ways, we honor in good ways sacred gatherings such as this celebration of consciousness. Being thankful is a way to honor. A way to honor all that is. Everyone here now and who will watch later are amazing beings of a cosmos with wonderful divine purposes and cosmic potentials. Our Zoomy beloved scientist, Michael, who's here, and we appreciate Ocean's Full, demonstrated to us that energies and entities surround us at any given time. And I thank Michael for this. Rev has known this since I was a kid in the 50s. So we honor all the ones that we cannot see, and for those we can see here that are supporting this gathering of the celebration of consciousness, we give thanks. How fascinating and connecting it is that we are connected to other energies with so many types of loving and caring and guiding beings of the mystical more. Many of the energies here are beyond 3D words. Since Nomies are so supportive of Rev here at home and during my near-death experience, and always at earth ceremonies, I desire to share a little bit from the Mohegan tribe of Delaware. They are the wolf people, a part of the great tree of life. This is one of their stories that I'm honored to share with you about the little people. In English, they are called the whippoorwill moccasin people. They wear moccasin flowers for shoes. After nightfall, the call of the whippoorwill signals their arrival. They taught the Mohegan precious people many things, like how to utilize the energies of the corn people. When the English settlers came in, the once close traditional connections with the little ones was disrupted greatly. One evening, there was a Mohican medicine woman named Tanta in her dwelling during a terrible storm. She heard the call of the whippoorwill. She looked outside, and there was a little one at her entrance to her dwelling. He introduced himself as Wiegand, who shared with the medicine woman, Tanta, that their sacred holy woman was very ill and they needed her energies and gifts of healing. The calling of beings from different densities to come together for a single purpose. So the storm was raging. She gathered her sacred bundle and healing plants, and Wiegand led the way in this downpour of rain. And the wind people were very strong that evening. After a long journey into the darkness, as they entered into the Earth Mother, the rain and the wind went quiet. They were in the realm of the little people. Wiegand led her to a beehive-shaped chamber of rocks. Inside, a very old woman lay in bed, very ill. Tanta was in the sacred presence of Granny Squannet, the most powerful of holy women. Other healers often look to Granny Squannet for her wisdom and her healing ways. The medicine woman Tanta treated Granny Squannet for nearly a moon before she got better. In return for restoring Granny Squannet's health, the whippoorwill moccasins people gave the medicine woman a basket of gifts and told her to remember them. Tanta was blindfolded and taken back home. Only when she returned did she open the basket. Inside were quartz crystals and painted skins and bunches of herbs and balls of energies of love and appreciation. Beautiful ones. Rev and many of us have worked with other energies and entities for a common cosmic purpose. And we've heard this today. Many times for Rev, it's in the healing, weaving ceremony of the land, where the land has been disturbed. Then we mesh into oneness to be one in our sacred endeavors of healing. We are amazing beings of the mystical more with wondrous connections. May the winds of love and understanding and encouragement blow upon you an incredible cosmic awareness. Oh, yes. Thank you. You beautiful blessings of the more. Remember the little ones and other entities love gifts from your sacred inner essence. Eternal ones of all that is, may each one of us be wrapped in glorious cosmic energies of pure love and divine tranquility. You are such an incredible gift of the mystical more. As these energies of this gathering will be with us for several days and for some much longer, let's support one another in these energies and pure love in our head thoughts, our heart thoughts. So it is, eternal ones.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That beautiful, beautiful blessing got me emotional. I couldn't talk for a second. Thank you so much, and for holding space, all of you here today, as we gather. I am so thankful for this space, and I want to thank all the energies that supported this space today, and all the beings that gave us direction and spoke with us today. Thank you so much for holding space. As we draw this to a close, I just want to remind you that you are worthy. You have always been worthy, and you are whole and holy in your highest power. Anything beyond that is an illusion. Thank you so much for joining us today.